Boys and girls, a very good evening. Hello boys and girls, a very good evening and welcome to this live stream brought to you by TalentSprint. I hope all of you are healthy and your preparation for the IBPS PO, the IBPS RRB Office Assistants and IBPS RRB Officers Scale 1 exam is in full swing. Well, September has finally arrived and we are just about 36 or 37 days away from the D-Day, which is the IBPS PO preliminary examination. So I am assuming that all of you are leaving no stone unturned and practicing really hard to boost your chances of selection. But now, what do we discuss today? We have been meeting like for last 8-10 days, I guess, and I'm sure the concepts that we have discussed over the last few sessions have really been interesting, right? I mean, easy and smart ways to solve some very complex question types. Now, most of these have been from quantitative aptitude, so I thought we should be discussing something on reasoning today. In fact, strictly speaking, what we're going to discuss is not really from reasoning. It could be asked both in quantitative aptitude and reasoning ability section. What is this? This is data sufficiency. Now, if you really understand this, data sufficiency is not a topic by itself, right? It is just a question type, right? It is one other way of asking questions from any given topic, right? It's like something can be asked in a true or false format, right? A question can be asked in multiple choice question format, right? It can be asked in a descriptive manner. So likewise, any question can be asked in the format of data sufficiency. What do we have to really do here is to check if the given data is sufficient to answer the question or not, right? So if you have solved a few questions of data sufficiency already, you would know that here we have a question statement followed by two data statements, right? So there is a question followed by two data statements. And what we have to do is find out if the data given in these two statements is enough for us to answer the given question or not, right? That's the whole objective here. So there's a question with some information. All we need to do is just check if the information is sufficient for us to answer the question or not. We don't really have to solve the question, right? Don't waste your time in solving the complete question. Just check if the data is sufficient or not. So, so it's important that you know how to approach such questions, right? Like I said, any topic can be asked under data sufficiency, right? We can have questions from time and work or time and distance or profit and loss or simple and compound interest or simplifications, some of the topics from quantitative aptitude. Or there can be questions from reasoning as well, right? I mean, blood relations question can be asked in terms of data sufficiency, right? Or for that matter, circular arrangements can be asked in data sufficiency format, right? Or a question from coded inequalities can be given under data sufficiency. So all this clearly shows us that data sufficiency is not, like I said, a topic by itself. It is just a question type, right? It is like one another way of asking any given question there. So it is very important and essential that you know the approach, you learn the approach of attempting such questions, right? How do you go about such questions? And there's a step-by-step process in my view, which one needs to understand very clearly so that you can answer the questions easily. So what I will do now is share my screen with you. Take a very simple question, right? Very, very simple and straight question, which I'm sure all of you will be able to answer. But then the idea is to understand the flow, the process of answering such questions. All right. So let me share my screen, present a question to you all, and then discuss about how to solve questions on data sufficiency. All right. Here we go. So let's say the topic of discussion, like I said, is data sufficiency, and understand that we all have to, all that we need to do here is check the sufficiency of the data. Don't waste your time in solving the question. Never waste your time in solving the question. All you have to do is just check if the data is sufficient or not. Now let me take a very simple question. What is the area of the rectangle? Right? This is the question. What is the area of the rectangle? What is the area of the rectangle? Now there are two data statements given along with this, statement 1 and statement 2, right? Now let's say, I'm only trying to explain you the possible answers for such questions, right? Now what do you know? you know that area of a rectangle, and this question, by the way, is from mensuration, right? This belongs to the topic of mensuration. So mensuration is covered under data sufficiency. Now, what is area of a rectangle? We all know that area of a rectangle is equal to L into B, length into breadth, right? Area of a rectangle is length times the breadth. Yeah, product of length and breadth. Now, any time you get a question on data sufficiency, the first thing that you need to do is understand what all do we need to solve the given question. Like in this case, for me to find out the area of the rectangle, for me to solve the area of the rectangle, I should know the length of the rectangle and the breadth of the rectangle, right? These are the two data points that we're looking for, the length and the breadth of the rectangle. All right. So all we'll do now is to focus and find out which of these statements, statement 1 and statement 2, gives us the length and the breadth. Now there are multiple possibilities. Statement 1 alone may give you both length and breadth, or statement 2 alone may give you both length and breadth, or both statements 1 and 2 independently may give you length and breadth, or it may sometimes so happen that length is given in statement 1, the breadth is given in statement 2, right? Or in some cases it may be like the data is incomplete, right? The data is not sufficient at all. So based on the case there, case to case basis, you have to answer the question. Yeah. So let me give you the possible answer options for such questions, right? Option 1 says only statement 1 alone is sufficient. I'm just giving it to you in a simple format, right? Option 1 says data given in only statement 1 alone is sufficient and statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Option 2 says only statement 2 alone is sufficient, right? Option 2 states that only statement 2 is enough to answer the question. Yeah. Option 3 is either statement 1 or statement 2 alone is sufficient, right? Either statement 1 alone or statement 2 alone is sufficient. Option 4 could be both 1 and 2 together, both statements 1 and statement 2 together are not sufficient, together are not sufficient. And option 5 would be both statement 1 and statement 2 together are sufficient. So what we're trying to do now here is understand what cases will result in which of these answer options. Yeah, 5 answer options given to you. You can understand the difference in each of these answer options, right? Option 1 says only statement 1 alone is sufficient and data in statement 2 is not required. Statement 2 says only statement 2 alone is sufficient and the data in statement 1 is not required. Option 3 is either statement 1 alone or statement 2 alone is enough. Option 4 says both statement 1 and 2 together are not sufficient, right? And option 5 here says statement 1 and statement 2 together are enough to answer this given question. Yeah. So let me give you different possible ways of getting the answer. Now, like I said, our focus is to find out length and breadth. We are not really worried about area. I know that once I get to know what is length and the breadth of this rectangle, I'll be able to find out the area. So now do not worry about the area here, right? Let's not worry about area. Let's only worry about length and the breadth. So let's say statement 1 says I'm just giving you an equation. It would have some statement there, proper phrase, English phrase there. So it says that length is equal to 37 meters. Yeah. And then it says breadth is equal to length minus 4. And statement 2 says that length is greater than breadth. Length is greater than breadth. Now what do you do? What will be your answer in this case? See, statement 1. Very clearly we know the length from the statement 1. Length equals to 37 meters. And then it is breadth is length minus 4. So it will be 37 minus 4, 33. So basically length and the breadth both have been given to us. Both length and breadth have been given to us. So can I answer this question from statement 1 alone? Yes. Can you answer the question from statement 1 alone? Yes. So statement 1 alone is sufficient in this case. But then does it mean that your answer is option 1? No, not immediately. Do not mark option 1 immediately as the answer. Remember, one classical law to be followed, rule to be followed when you're solving questions from data sufficiencies, never mark your answer unless you have read both the statements. Without reading all the data, without going through all the data, without going through all the statements, never conclude what the answer is. Right? Like in this case, I'm sure statement 1 alone will give me the answer, but that does not mean that answer is option 1. Right? You have to read statement 2 as well. And only then jump to any conclusion. Now let's look at statement 2. Statement 2 says length is greater than breadth. Now tell me, is this information of any value to us? No. We anyway know that in a rectangle, the length is usually greater than the breadth. Right? Length is greater than the breadth. So this information is not useful at all. Information given in statement 1 alone is sufficient. Now I can conclude that yes, statement 1 alone is sufficient and statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Now, answer is yes, option 1 itself. You might be wondering, then why didn't we mark the answer in the earlier stage itself, right? Like when we got to know 1 alone is sufficient, we could have marked the answer immediately. Why did we take the pain of reading the statement 2? It is because there could be a case that the data of statement 2 also is sufficient. And in that case, your answer would be option 3 and not option 1. You getting it? In this case, the answer is option 1. But otherwise, the answer could be either statement 1 or statement 2 alone is sufficient, assuming that statement 2 also gives you the data. Right? So remember, rule number 1, never mark the answer. Never mark the answer without reading both the statements or without reading all the statements. Sometimes 3 statements are also given to you, right? So you have to read all the statements before you mark the answer. When will your answer be option 2? Just swap these two. Let's say this is statement 2 and this is statement 1. I mean, of course, statement 1 will be given first, but you know, right? 1 and 2 are similar. So if, let's say, statement 1 says length is greater than breadth, it is of no use. I know that length is greater than breadth. Or it may say that this rectangle has a well inside it. I mean, this rectangular field has a well inside it. How does it help us? I mean, that's like crap, right? It doesn't really help. So statement 1 alone is not sufficient, right? Statement 2, yes, enough. So in that case, your answer would be statement 2 alone is sufficient and statement 1 alone is not sufficient. Now, what are the other cases? So let me just give you the other possible, give you the other possible cases where answers could be 3, 4 or 5. Yeah. So let me now explain you when can the answer be option 3, right? When can the answer be option 3? So this is statement 1 and let's say statement 2 is as follows. Statement 2 says that, length plus breadth, the sum of the length and the breadth of the rectangle is 70. Yeah. And then it says, another equation in terms of length and breadth, the ratio of length to breadth is equal to 37:33. Let's say this is the data. Now what happens in this case? Of course, option 1 and option 2 we have anyway considered earlier. Now look at this case. What happens? Can option 1 give you the answer? Yes. Option 1, statement 1 has got 2 equations. One is in terms of length, the other is in terms of breadth and length. So 2 equations and 2 unknowns we can solve. Or strictly speaking, only 1 equation and 1 variable. We can solve for it and get the required answer. So I know the length and breadth both from statement 1 alone. So statement 1 alone gives me the answer. Yeah. Now check statement 2. What is statement 2? Statement 2 has got L plus B equals to 70 and L is to B equals to 37:33. Now in this case again, what do you see? There are 2 equations. L plus B equals to 70 and L is to B, or L by B equals to 37:33. 2 equations and 2 variables. Can you solve? Yes, you can solve. Now do not waste your time in actually finding out what is length and what is breadth. That's not going to help you get extra marks or solve this question. Right? This is where many students commit a mistake. They start solving for it. They say that okay, length is going to be 37 by 37 plus 33, 70 times the sum 70. Okay, so length is equal to 37. Then they'll say okay, length is 37, so breadth is 33. So length is 37, breadth is 33, and now find out the area. Area is 37 into 33. And they will do the calculation, right? What is 37 into 33? I think it will be 1221. Yeah? 1225 minus 4. Yeah? 1221. So area of the rectangle is 1221 meters square. No, all this is a waste of time. That's what I'm trying to tell you, right? Don't solve the question. Our objective here is not to solve the question. Our objective here is to find out if we can solve the question from the given data. So given data is enough for me to solve the question. I know that when there are 2 variables and 2 equations, I can solve for those 2 variables, unknown values. And once these 2 unknown values are obtained, area can anyway be obtained. So statement 2 also is sufficient without having to do any of this stuff that we have done here. Yeah. So statement 1 alone gives me the answer and statement 2 alone also gives me the answer. So your answer would be option 3. That either statement 1 or statement 2 alone is sufficient to mark the answer. This is why I told you that never mark the answer without reading both the statements. Like let's say in this case, I'm sure some students mark the answer as option 1. They are in a hurry, right? They're writing this competitive exam. They know that time is precious. So they don't want to waste their time. They just check statement 1 and they know that they can obtain the answer. So they mark option 1 as the answer, which is wrong. Answer is not option 1. Answer is option 3. 2 also can give me the answer. Likewise, some students may mark only option 2 is sufficient. Only statement 2 alone is sufficient. But the reality is that 1 alone or 2 alone are sufficient. Yeah. So be very careful. Never mark your answer without reading both the statements. So that's how we get option 3 as the answer. Yeah, I'm trying to explain you the whole process that needs to be followed. Yeah. Now, when will your answer be? Option 4 or option 5? I mean, that both 1 and 2 together are sufficient, or both 1 and 2 together are not sufficient. So let me just clear and give you some other data, right? Clear this up and give some data. Now, first of all, what happens? Like let's say statement 1 tells you that breadth equals to length minus 12, and statement 2 says that length squared is equal to 576, let's say. I was looking for a perfect square. 576 we all know is a perfect square. So length square equals to 576, breadth is length minus 12. Now what happens? What happens in this case? The question says, what is the area of the rectangle? Yeah, you know that area of the rectangle is length times breadth. We need the length and the breadth here. Okay. Now when I look at statement 1, what do I get? Breadth equals to length minus 12. B equals to L minus 12. Does it give me L or B? No. Is statement 1 alone sufficient to get the answer? No. Why is it so? Because we have only one equation in two variables, in two unknown values. You know that in one equation and two unknowns, you cannot do anything. So statement 1 alone does not give me the answer. Very clearly, statement 1 alone does not give you the answer. So now look for statement 2, right? What is statement 2? Check statement 2. Statement 2 says that length square equals to 576. So what do we obtain from statement 2? Clearly we can find out the length. Now again, don't waste your time in taking the square root of 576. I mean, of course, you know that 576 is 24 square, but then do not waste your time in doing those calculations. Yeah. All I know is from statement 2, I can find out the length. But getting the length, is it enough to get the answer? See, remember, when you are checking statement 2, forget about what was given in statement 1. Usually a mistake that many students commit is that when they are reading statement 2, they don't neglect what is given in statement 1. You understand the point? Currently, we have verified statement 1. We have come to a conclusion that 1 alone does not give me the answer. Now, when you're reading statement 2, only focus on statement 2. Forget about what is given in statement 1. That should not be retained, right? If you do not forget this, forget as in if you do not keep that out of your sight, you may get confused. Statement 2 only gives me the length. But with length alone, can we solve the question? No. I know the length, but the breadth is not known to us. So can statement 2 give me the answer? No. Statement 2 will not give me the answer. So 1 alone has failed, 2 alone has also failed. So clearly option 1, option 2 and option 3 are ruled out. 1 alone cannot give me the answer, 2 alone cannot give me the answer, and either 1 or 2 also cannot give me the answer. Now, another important rule to be followed when you are solving questions from data sufficiency. You have to go for combination of both the statements. You now will go for combination of both the statements. Now remember, the data given in both the statements will be combined, or we will go for the combination if and only if both the statements independently have failed to give the answer. I repeat, you have to go for combination of the statements if and only if these two statements independently fail to give the answer. Meaning, let's say if one statement fails, but second one is enough, no need to go for combination, because here your answer will be only 2 is enough. Similarly, the first one is enough, second one is not enough, then you cannot go for combination because you have already got the answer using statement 1 alone. Likewise, if 1 alone is enough, 2 alone is enough, you cannot go for combination. This is not allowed. You cannot go for combination in any of these cases because you have anyway got the answer. You will go for combination if and only if independently the two statements fail to give the answer. Only in this case the combination is allowed. Only in this case the two statements have to be considered together. Again, remember, when you combine the two statements, like in this case, when you combine the two statements, there are two possible results. What are the possible results? You may get the answer, may not get the answer. Even after combination, you may not get the answer. Or maybe you will get the answer. So, how do you decide which is the correct answer? If you get the answer by the combination of two statements, then you will mark option 5. Yes or no? Both 1 and 2 together are sufficient. If you do not get the answer using the combination of statements, then you will mark option 4, that both 1 and 2 together are not sufficient. You're getting it? Both 1 and 2 together are not sufficient. So tell me what happens in this case. In this case, I know that length is breadth equals to L minus 12, L square equals to 576. Now when I combine the two statements, I've got two equations. Equation 1, B equals to L minus 12. Equation 2, L square equals to 576. Two equations and two unknown values. Can we solve for it? Yes. Can we solve for both L and B? Yes. Now we can solve for both L and B, we can obtain both L and B, and the moment I get both L and B, I know that area can be obtained, which means the question can be solved. So the question can be solved by the combination of both the statements. Hence my answer in this case would be option 4. Answer in this case would be option 4, right? When will your answer be option 5? Answer will be option 5 in case, let's say, the second statement is something like L equals to, or let's say L is greater than B. This is taking an example. Now in this case what happens? Statement 1 tells you B is L minus 12. Statement 2 tells you L is greater than B. We have got only one equation. Even if I combine, independently they have failed. Independently statement 1 fails, statement 2 also fails. When I go for combination, what do I see? There's only one equation, B equals to L minus 12. But there are two unknown values. Can we solve for it? No, we cannot solve for it. So you will not get the answer even after combining both the statements. So mark option 4, that the data in both 1 and 2 together is also not sufficient to get the answer. Alright, so that's about the approach, the very basics of solving questions on data sufficiency. I would love to take more examples, but we are short on time, so I'll just quickly summarize what we have discussed. Right, in data sufficiency there are different cases possible. You need to understand the flow. Yeah, I mean, let's not draw a flow chart here for that, but understand that there is a statement 1 and there's a statement 2. Yeah, what are the possibilities? 1 may give you the answer, 2 may not give you the answer. 1 may not give you the answer, 2 may give you the answer. 1 may give you the answer, 2 also will give you the answer. 1 does not give you the answer, 2 also does not give you the answer. In this case, you go for combination. And that may result in two cases. You may get the answer and may not get the answer. Yeah. So what is this? Only 1 is sufficient. What does this result tell us? Only 2 is sufficient. What this result tells us? Either 1 or 2 is sufficient. Yeah. Of course, this combination will not give you anything, but like I said, you will go for, I mean, when both of them independently fail to give the answer, you have to go for combination. Yeah, you have to combine the data given in both the statements. Yeah. So this could be the result. When you will mark this as answer? When both are sufficient. And when you mark this as answer? When both are not sufficient. Yeah. So I think these are the different possible cases. Only 1, only 2, either 1 or 2, both 1 and 2 together are sufficient, both 1 and 2 together are not sufficient. Remember some important rules. Read all the statements before you mark the answer. Right? Read all the statements before you mark the answer. Another important rule is do not solve the question. Do not solve the question for final answer. You getting it? Like, don't solve for area of the rectangle. Just check the sufficiency. You just have to check the sufficiency of the given data. Yeah. And rule number 3, combine the data if and only if independently, is the independently spelling correct here? Yeah, looks like correct. Independently, the statements fail. All the statements fail. Yeah, there could be more than 2 statements also. That is the reason I'm saying all the statements fail. So 3 important rules to remember, right? Do not solve the question for the final answer. Just check for sufficiency. That's very important. Yeah, you have to read all the statements before you mark your answer, and go for combination if and only if all the statements individually fail to give you the answer, independently fail to give you the answer. All right. So I think that was a simple effort to explain you how should you approach questions on data sufficiency. And I think this again is a game of practice. While the process remains the same, you have to practice more and more questions. And then there are some, while most of the questions on data sufficiency are easy to crack, I mean, you got to know the concept there. Like, for example, if a question is asked on profit and loss, and if you do not know how to solve questions on profit and loss, it doesn't make any sense to even attempt such questions, right? Like let's say, instead of rectangle, area of rectangle, the question is find out the volume of a frustum. Now you understand what a frustum is? Let's say if you don't understand what a frustum is, don't even attempt, because then it becomes like a general awareness question, right? I mean, you don't know what a frustum is. It's like a part of a cone, right? I mean, when you have a conical structure, and if you, let's say, chop the top part, at some height, the remaining portion is called a frustum. Now, volume of frustum, you need to know what the formula is. So if you do not know what the formula, it doesn't make any sense there. Yeah. So don't attempt such questions. Yeah. I mean, if you do not know how to solve a question on compound interest and the data sufficiency there is based on CI, compound interest, then just skip and go to the next one. Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm trying to tell you is questions are usually very easy to solve here, but sometimes it can be tricky, right? Like especially questions on number systems can be tricky. I'm sure if you have practiced for some time or if you have been preparing for these exams for some time and you have covered this topic of data sufficiency, there are like enough questions on number theory and number systems where they ask you questions like there's a 2-digit number or find out the 2-digit number and the data is about the digits, right? The units place is something more than the tens place, or the product of the units place and tens place is so and so, or their their sum is something, or the ratio is something, right? These kind of questions, while they appear to be easy, can be tricky sometimes. Yeah. The biggest challenge here is we will not know if you have actually got the answer or not. I mean, you may think you will not be able to solve the question, and hence you will mark that the data is not sufficient. But actually, you may be able to solve the question if you look at the data properly. Yeah, or the other way around, right? You may think that yes, this question can be answered because the data is enough, but in reality the data may not be enough, right? So sometimes it can be tricky. Usually it's very easy to solve, but sometimes it can be tricky, especially when the questions start with words like is, was, are, etc. Now this is a very, very important question type. I think you should practice on this one yourself. I wish I could take one example on that as well, but we'll do that some other time, right? Maybe in our session after a few days, right? We'll be meeting anyway every day. So the point that you need to focus on is, let's say when a question is starting with the word is, like the question statement is X an odd number, question mark, is X an odd number, question mark, or it can be a question on blood relations, right? Is Nitin the husband of Meena, for example? Yeah, is Nitin the husband of Meena? Or there can be a question on calendars, like was 3rd December 2014 a Saturday, or was 2nd November 1989 Wednesday, right? Now, what is the challenge here? Understand that in all these cases which starts with is or was, it's a true or false question type, right? The answer could be yes or no. The answer can be yes or no. Like for example, if the question is X an odd number, let's take the simplest of the cases, right? Is X an odd number? Let's say the data says X is equal to 4. Statement 1 says X equals to 4. Straight, it has given you the value of X. What is the question? Is X an odd number? Is X an odd number? Statement 1 tells you X equals to 4. What will be your answer? Is statement 1 alone enough to get the answer or no? I repeat, I'm not writing it on the screen here, but yeah, understand. The question is X an odd number? Statement 1 tells you that X equals to 4. What will you mark? I know statement 2 is also important, right? One of the rules I had mentioned clearly stated that you should read all the data before you mark the final answer, but let's assume this is the only statement. So tell me, is statement 1 alone enough to get the answer or no? Is X an odd number? X equals to 4. Yeah. Well, this is actually easy, but these kind of questions can get tricky. Now, what I've observed is most of the students, when I say most, 95% of the students go wrong in such cases. Why is it so? Because they think that the answer to this question is cannot be determined, or the answer to this question is this data is not sufficient, or the data in both the statements together is not sufficient, because they're getting no as an answer. You understand? Is X an odd number? When X is equal to 4, the answer is no. No, X is not an odd number. No, X is not an odd number, right? But no is the correct answer, right? Are you able to get the answer? What is data sufficiency all about? Data sufficiency is about checking the sufficiency of the data. Am I able to answer the given question? Yes, I am able to answer the question. What is my answer? My answer is no. Right? Is X an odd number? No is my answer. How did I arrive at that conclusion? By looking at the data given in the statements. You're able to follow. So usually what happens is, this is like a tricky one, right? Where you get no as the answer, and that no makes you think that answer cannot be determined even if you combine the data together there. So be very careful, right? Likewise, like, you know, in one of the cases, let's say the question says, is A the son of B? You may find that when you check and play with the data, you may find that A is not the son of B. A is the father of B. The question was, is A the son of B? You have found that A is the father of B. Now that does not mean that answer is both the statements 1 and 2 together are not sufficient, because your answer is no here. You understand? Is A the son of B? Your answer will be no. No, A is not the son of B. But no is the right answer. So what you have to understand, the key point here is that no can also be a correct answer. You understand? No can also be a correct answer. So when you solve questions on data sufficiency, whenever you do it in your next 30-36 days before you appear for IBPS paper in your examination, definitely attempt some questions which are of these type, right? Is, was, you know, true or false, yes or no question types, because here unknowingly we go wrong. Well, if we get the right answer, we get confused and we mark something which is not the correct answer option. All right, so I think that's one advice that I would like to give you. I would see to it that see to it if we can solve a question or two in one of our sessions going forward. But then yes, practice is the key, right? The more you practice, the easier it gets. I've been telling this every day. Yeah. So I think practice is the only shortcut. So keep practicing and take very good care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next session. Right? While I was feeling like saying enjoy your weekend, it doesn't really come naturally to me now, because you should not be enjoying your weekends now. Exam is just 36 days away, right? So work harder, because there's no shortcut to success, right? Take care.